Welcome to Still Growing in Grace, a program dedicated to inspiring joy, giving hope, and delighting in grace. I'm Mike Zenker, and I'll be sharing with you a message of hope that will expand your understanding of God's love and amazing grace. God already deeply loves you, totally accepts you, and really, really likes you. Growing in Grace Ministries Canada and Hope Fellowship, your community church, invite you to enjoy today's program as we dig deeper into what it means to be still growing in grace. All right, good morning, everyone. It is really good to have you here with me today. Today, I am really excited about the guests, plural. There was a couple surprise pop-ins that each of us didn't expect, and it was really fun. But today, I have this really amazing conversation with Bruch Wauchope from Australia. A number of years ago, I watched a video called What is the Gospel series that was recorded in Toronto by a guy named Michael Lafleur. I never met Michael before, and my friend Rudy Zacharias told me, you gotta watch this series, and I went, nah, I'll get to it when I can. I just wasn't clicking. And finally, when I watched it, it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is like the floodgates of understanding an even greater depth of God's love, not just for me, but for the world. The whole idea that we're not separated, the illusion of separation became so clear in this series. And this is like 12, 13 years ago, something like that. I forget exactly. But I tell you, this conversation is way overdue, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Michael Lafleur is in this video, and Stuart Johnson from Australia, a good friend of Bruce's, and someone that I used to chat with all the time on Skype when we used to use Skype. It's pretty fun. So let's dig in and enjoy. This is a longer conversation, but it is a good one, and I really hope you'll enjoy it. Here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Still Growing in Grace. Today, I am honored, like blown away, to have Bruce, and I got Stuart sitting beside him, which was a surprise today. And Michael is also a surprise. It was supposed to be a surprise to Bruce. But Bruce, how do you pronounce your last name? Because there's been some discussions here in Canada.
Well, it's actually Scottish.
Oh, great.
So the CH is a spit.
It's like a walk-up?
Walk-up. Yeah.
Walk-up.
So it's like Loch Ness Monster. The CH is Loch Ness.
It's like
Monster.
baseball when they have the walk-up song.
Yeah. So walk-up. So in Australia, we go one of two ways. We go a hard K or a soft K. Wauchope or Wauchope. But in Scottish, it's a spit.
Wow. So, there we go. It's official because nobody told us. Amazing. So let me introduce you to my guests because they may not know who you are. A number of years ago, about 11 or 12 years ago, a guy named Rudy Zacharias, I got to mention his name again because this Rudy guy keeps introducing me to people, but he put me onto your series, What is the Gospel? And says, Mike, you got to see this. This makes everything make sense. Everything we've been learning, it'll make it click for you. And yeah, whatever. Just kind of, I'll get to it. So I'm stuck at this camp where I didn't feel like, I was in a bad mood. So I thought, fine, I got nothing else to do. I'll watch these videos. And I began to weep because I saw for the first time, I thought there was a wall in front of me preventing me from understanding what this gospel is. And I realized there's no wall in front of me. I'm in the wall, the Western wall, hence not able to understand. And man, I reached out to you as soon as that hit and tried to connect. About 3 or 4 years ago, my Facebook account got shut down because of some COVID rules, and it was just dumb. I had to restart and reconnect with everybody because I was live streaming church stuff, and there was copyright rules, and it got stupid. So we lost connection back then. But I've been in touch with Michael. I met Michael a couple years later because he was the one hosting that What is the Gospel in Toronto.
He organized it.
Yeah, which is crazy. Because I didn't know who he was, and when I did meet him, he was actually either with a Dr Kruger or Paul Young or Brad Jerzak, but I think it was Baxter when I first met.
You can get medication for having met Michael.
He said that about you.
And you're the one who prescribes it, I hear.
I'll take another full dose of Bruce and Belinda and Zoe anytime, and the rest of the Aussies, they're amazing. We had a great time together.
What I'd love to, I want to briefly talk about the old original series, because I'm looking at it uploaded here.
The old original series happened because Michael Lafleur contacted me and basically asked me to come out to Canada and speak.
Wow.
So Michael was the driver, and I was going to speak on the gospel and mental health to psychiatrists, psychologists, and counsellors. And they had organised roughly a couple of hundred of people in that ilk. And I came out, we did a week with YWAM, and Michael was filming it. And partway through, Michael said, you know, you can actually communicate. You're a good communicator. And
not bad.
And he's behind the camera like Michael is, you know. Michael runs 3 to 4 cameras and has it all running. And so then we went and did the What is the Gospel series in Toronto. And when I went
it's
to
actually in Mississauga, Mississauga, only because we think because the spirit and because the dualisms have been beautifully deconstructed in the word becoming flesh, right? Creation and the people and the land and everything in heaven and earth is all aligned. And the very room that you gave those talks in, Bruce, was the room that the indigenous people of this particular region, they dug out the foundations of that room. And when that renewal hit in the 1820s, and had such a transformative effect, and this was an unveiling of the Father. It's amazing that you were standing right in that stream.
Yeah. Now I'm standing in that room, and there's Indian headdresses, like the big solid real ones, all around the room, and I'm standing in like an amphitheater of where I'm speaking out is the headdresses.
Wow, we can't see them in the video.
No, but I stand up.
No, in the spiritual realm, like in spiritual realm.
No, they were literally there, and I stand up to speak. And of course, I'm fairly intuitive. So since I've been baptized in the Spirit as a kid, you know, in 18, 20, I hear all this shit in my head, you know. And so, I said the S word for the Americans. Okay, Americans.
No, they're worse. They're worse. Canadians are nice.
Okay, good. So, I hear this, you hear stuff like, you know, you're walking intuitively in the Spirit. I stand up to speak, and these voices start speaking like, who are you? And what have you got to say? They're from around, you know, what have you got to say? And going like this. And so, okay, so stop and said, okay, so before I get going, I need to tell you that, and that's the introduction to that series where I say, what I'm about to say has more in line with the indigenous people than the West. Now you hear that at the beginning, but you don't hear why I kicked into that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I had these voices speaking to me. Who are you? I said, okay. And I talk about the Western world being the beast.
Okay. Yep.
Right. And the rise of the beast and how it's been, with its great iron teeth, destroying indigenous cultures and destroying different things. And you Americans with your Left Behind series, you're waiting for the coming of.
We're Canadian, just so you know, both of us here.
Yeah, no, you're like Australians. You've got a bit of redemption somewhere. You know, well, America's in rebellion from England, and Australia's in rejection. We've been rejected by England. So very different culture with Americans. We're polarized. Americans operate from we're great, we're fantastic. Australians sit there and go, put the pin in it, you know. We have the problem of a tall poppy syndrome. If someone's doing well, we'll chop their legs down. So the only thing Australians celebrate is a quiet achiever. Somebody who really achieves but doesn't flag wave how good they are.
So humility is honored.
And Bruce was tying into that theme, right? About the indigenous. So what you were doing in dismantling the Western,
I was tapping into the indigenous. Now I spoke and I said, look, America is the beast. The Western world is the beast. And I was laying it out, and I said, the beast has been replaced in Daniel by a man. And it's judged, it says it's judged in the heavens, and it's replaced by a man who is Christ. So it's humanized.
Hmm.
The total machinery, the iron teeth, the crunching, the destroying is replaced by a humanization, a person, a being, Christ. And so I laid that out at the beginning of those talks. And the hairdressers, the beings in the hairdresser said, go for it. Great, go for it.
Wow. That must have fired you up.
Well, no, I live that way. So it's not didn't fire me up. That's not a new experience.
Okay.
So, what happened is I laid out the first section of that, the first talk of that. There was 4 talks. I think 3 are up.
All 4 are up. All 4 are up.
No, I haven't seen it.
What, the US mind control one?
I'm not sure, but there's 4 sessions. I finally got the 4th one, and it's uploaded. I asked you permission to do it, and you said yeah.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, Michael.
For a lot of time, we didn't have the US mind control and other bits and occult up there because people get weird about that, and they want to go chasing that and ignore Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. In the series we've just done, that's right at the end. We cover all that stuff again, but laid in the term of Zoe so people can get a frame for it. But it's so after the first talk, I was met with crossed arms and people just like, they couldn't even begin to understand what we were talking about. And we went on for the next 6 talks, just kept going. So I was basically speaking to the audience, which was like concrete coming back.
Wow.
They could not, we lost them in the union of the first talk.
What? So
yes.
By the time I got to hearing this, I had already, I'm a pastor now for 33 years, and
my condolences.
I know. I wouldn't want to wish it on anybody, but I do have a good church, and I get to teach this freedom where I'm at right now for the last 20 years. So I'm very fortunate, just like the location where Michael was at, and we had those sessions where they have the freedom to teach this, which is great. So I'd been unlearning legalism and moving into grace, but then this was called to me more grace. And it was like I opened it up and opened a curtain and went, holy smokes, and there's a huge universe on the other side of the curtain.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, how am I going to explain this? Because before that, I had right answers for all the cubby holes. And the cubby holes were destroyed. And now it's like I'm entering a new mystery that I was never told about. But it took a long time to get my heart ready to receive. And it was a crisis at a camp that I was watching these videos, even though I had the video links for 9 months. So you can't rush people into revelation ever.
No, you can't. And no, you see, the reason this latest video series will take off slightly better is in 2018, there was a shift in the heavens. So I was teaching in America, and Captain Lafleur was there too. And in the broad savannah of his mind, he was traveling down to Texas with us. And we ended up doing the Undiluted Gospel series, right? Now, before the Undiluted Gospel series in Texas, back in Tennessee, a guy with a beard like that, but a bit longer, and also hair down to his waist.
But isn't that everybody in Tennessee?
Hair down to his waist. Yeah, but this actually ties in with the indigenous story in the last. He came up to me, and I had just done my series, and Brad Jerzak was standing up doing his. So it was myself, Kruger, and Jerzak, right? So, and I just stepped outside, and it's in an American barn. They're huge. They're like big as basketball stadium. You know, they're huge things, right? Huge barns, and this had a couple of 100 men in it, and there's bits everywhere. And I stepped outside the door, and it was raining, pouring with rain. And this guy with his hair down here, without asking, comes up to me and he goes, puts his hand on my chest and goes, "Oh, you've been through it. Oh, your life. Oh," and of course I have. I've been thrown under the bus, so to speak. I've been broken up as a being. It's just what's happened the last 20 years. And he's reading me, right? He's giving me a spiritual reading, and I'm going, I didn't do it, but I'm thinking, get your hands off me, vampire. It's almost and I was really annoyed with him, and his name was Carl, and I discovered that later. But then he said, your little girl's going to be okay. And Zoe, who Michael's met, was currently in hospital in Adelaide with bad asthma. And Belinda had been ringing me, my wife, and ringing me saying, look, Zoe's unwell. And so I'm just tracking, and I haven't told anybody in America. Told nobody. So he just says, your little girl's going to be okay. And then I'm realizing this guy's tapped in. So I'm not going to, I'll listen. And then he said, there's enormous spiritual pressure. There's enormous spiritual pressure. There's going to be a rupture soon. It's going to be good for you. Ride the wave, young man. I'm not young. And, so, grey hair. I sat there giggling. And that was it. So we spoke about it with Kruger. And I said, oh, that's interesting. What's going to come? And the next day I came back and I saw him and I gave him a hug. As I gave him a hug, I got kicked into like a vision, I could just see. And there was like a green plain with big trees all around the edge. And there was a solitary American Indian, not with a headdress, but with just swades, standing in the middle. So I pushed him back and I said, I didn't know you were American. I didn't know you were an Indian. You're an Indian. He goes, yeah. I said, I could see. And he says, I know you can see.
Wow.
And I said, so then I walked on about 5 steps and I could hear all these voices in my head. I said, oh dear. So I turned back and I said, we've got work to do. So I gave him a big hug and began praying. And I got kicked back into that picture. And he's there on that side. And Jesus turns up on this side in the picture with his arms out. And as we're sitting there and we're praying, all the tribes start coming out of Carl and flowing into Jesus, going home. Carl has carried his tribe like they do in the Indigenous because they can't trust the West with good reason. And they don't trust the West religion. But when they meet the true being who is Jesus Christ, they go home. And his Christ is there with his arms outstretched, and all these things are going boom, 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 boom. And I just kept praying, and we're just praying, and then settles. No noise, no voices. Carl texts me the next day because it was the end of the conference. He says, it's so quiet. It's so quiet. It's nice. So
and Bruce, that's a perfect setup for as a microcosm of what you're saying and what we sense has happened on a macro scale, on a global scale. It's this unveiling. It's this inbreaking and unveiling, which I think there have been some watershed moments. But keep going on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we on the way. I was talking about it with Kruger, and on the way Kruger said, well, if this Indigenous stuff is unfolding and we'll wait for the plates, we'll bump into Indian stuff the whole way to Texas, won't we? Sure enough, every road stop we landed, head drip. It was just everywhere. We couldn't get away from it. I mean, at the end of the Undiluted Gospel Conference, which is online somewhere, Michael's got it online. Paul Young sat down with Michael in front of the camera. We're doing a little conference afterwards, and Paul Young puts his fists together, not his fingers like the other guy. And he says, there's enormous spiritual pressure. There's enormous spiritual. It's going to be a rupture soon. Same words. And
that's
Kruger and I turn and look at Young, and he goes, what? What are you what do you do that for? And so we then began asking Holy Spirit, how long? We've got 6 months. So I came back to Adelaide, and we're running another perichoresis meeting in the surgery, which ran on Wednesday nights, Tuesday nights, Tuesday night meeting. And this young guy comes running in, and he hasn't come before. He goes, there's an event coming up. I've taken long service leave for this time. and there's something going to happen. So he arranged his job to take long service leave. The dates he had in his brain were the same dates we had when we came back. The pericresis group was praying, and we got 6 months. That kicked us into the end of November, early December 2018. Now, around that time, we began all listening, and we're just waiting. And then all of a sudden, early December 2018, it's like we could hear together giant stones, giant circles or tires, but not tires, but stone things grinding. Right.
Like a mill or something.
Giant millstone, giant, but really big, deep noise. Really. And it was so deep you couldn't hear it, but you could hear it. And we could only hear it because we were waiting and attuned. If we hadn't been attuned, I would have missed it. Right? So then we began ringing each other. Ring Ian, ring Stuart. We began ringing each other. Yeah, everyone's going, okay. And it goes on for a day or two. No, it wasn't like 30 seconds. It went on for a day or two. And go, wow, what's happening? It's like giant plates in the heavens are moving, whatever that means. How do you make sense of this stuff? You know, we've got our interface as a human, where we're getting some understanding of what's happening in the reality, but you can't build too much forward. It's like, that's what we say about mythology. You can't take your ideas and project them to God. You know, Jesus Christ is our revelation of God, and we don't project up. So we've got this this grinding, and then after that, everybody gets the gospel. I come into a consult with a patient, and I've got an old lady, and she's 85, and she's upset, and you're trying to drill into why she's upset, and it comes down to it. I don't know where my dad is. Well, I said, he's dead, isn't he? Yeah, well, he's dead. Yeah.
You're so sensitive.
Yeah. I don't know where he's. Okay, so you can't. You're trying to work out where your dad's gone. Yeah, I am trying. Okay, and she turns out to be extreme brethren, and she's got all these rules on how you get in.
Yep.
So I then draw that diagram that we've had over the years. You know, you'll see it on the you'll see it on the. Got it here. Got some paper. So we just draw, you know, the three circles, you know, which you've seen again and again, the three dotted circles with the universe on the inside. We draw that.
Yep, I remember that.
Right. So we draw that, and I said, I can tell you where your dad is. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, your dad's inside Jesus Christ. Because there's no outside.
Yes.
And take it back through Colossians 1, for in him, not just by him, in him all things are made created. And her daughter's sitting there, and after I'd finished, the lady's crying and happy because she can see scripturally that her dad is in Jesus. Wherever she thinks he is, he's in Jesus. And the daughter grabs the piece of paper and says, I want that. And it's been like that ever since in 2018. Now, people now, you know, they hear the gospel and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's right. Stuart's had the same experience.
It's like you're not telling them anything new. Or whereas before, they look at you sideways, and then you tell them, even people you think were atheists, even Buddhists, go, oh, yeah. Or look at the hairs on my arm. They're standing up. Now, whereas before, you'd say the same thing and it wouldn't penetrate. Then after, it penetrates. And it doesn't matter how clumsily you say it, it just seems to get through.
The one thing that really hit me, because certain language or wording will connect better with other people, certain people, right? So when you spoke about light and light shines through the darkness, and use their laser light and all that stuff, that illustration, that hit me. I talk about the light of Christ being in all, and I use that terminology more in the Christian circles because they can't handle Christ is in them already, right? So the light part is a great bridge. In fact, I'm just looking it up now. July 19th, 2012, I taught God is light, Christ is in all things for the very first time to a whole ton of people. And I referred to this, what is the gospel that you taught? So that was my launch of awakening in a way I could never have planned. And I've not stopped teaching it.
And you'll find that now, since 18, people receive it more.
Yes.
And more. And more. Now,
I'm in a long-term care home as well. I'm a chaplain in a long-term care home. People
that's where you met Michael, wasn't it?
Ah, oh, that's good. Okay, somebody's had their coffee. That's good. But in that setting, there are people far more open because they're hungry for some hope because they're lacking hope right now, right? Yeah. So this good news is really good news.
If I had your prime minister, I'd be lacking hope too. But
yes, absolutely. I'll leave that alone too. But oh my goodness, these are difficult political times.
They are. But in the middle of these difficult political times, and for the tape, this is a post-COVID time.
Yep.
Where we've watched our political leaders behave very interestingly during COVID times, linked somehow with Big Pharma, linked somehow with the World Economic Forum, linked somehow with desires for depopulation of humanity, right? That what we're seeing is actually the veil is being pulled back on what was already running.
Mm-hmm.
All that's happened is people are becoming aware of the plans behind the scenes and what's going on. And so it's great. Things have been blown open.
Yeah,
so
I've always said that.
A very good time.
I've actually said that when COVID started to hit and we were under these restrictions and trying to figure out how to have conversations, I said that COVID hasn't created anything. It's revealed the problems and cracks that were there already.
That's right. And when you watch the Canadian government freeze the bank accounts of its citizens, you know, you go, wow, we were very close to having totalitarian structures creep up on us without us realizing.
Mm-hmm. I know that topic's a tough one here in Canada. It's very polarized right now. I promise you that.
Well, we're just saying the governments and the things driving the governments are pluralist. There's always good things and bad things combined, even in one person.
Yeah.
Right. But what we're watching is stuff getting exposed, which was driving into the earth, which is hopefully now going to get pushed back.
Mm.
And a lot of people are despairing after COVID. Either they're into the rabbit holes, the dark holes of what's being planned, or they're into the futility of what's happened. But as believers, we stand, the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters covers the sea. It will happen.
Yeah.
And the people who've got all these drives are not in charge of the earth. The incarnation, God has intervened in the earth. Jesus Christ is stuck in humanity, whether they like it or not. And there will be an unveiling, a pulling back of the veil in all humanity, and the earth will begin to run. It will work.
Do you think the unveiling will just keep continuing until we cross over to the other side and even greater unveiling happens?
I think, all of that will happen personally for us.
Yeah.
But there will be a time when there's an objective unveiling across the world. That's the second coming.
Okay.
The second coming is not the appearing of an absent Jesus.
Right. I believe that.
Right. The second coming is an unveiling of Christ in you, plus the appearing in being of Jesus.
Mm.
And he's not only just there, he's actually in us. And it's pulled back and everybody can see him and they go, oh my goodness. And
are you sure about Stuart though? Because I don't know.
Yeah, well, the beard is a bit,
That's so funny. So let's get into this. Go ahead, please. Yeah, Michael, jump in, please.
No, I just want to offer to potentially your viewers, listeners, that I think the little summary, the 7-minute sort of trailer summary video I did of some of the high points of Bruce's recent series that he laid down, that I think, Mike, you're a good way
Michael's view of the high points.
Very difficult to pull some out, but I tried to pull some sound bites out. And that little trailer, which I think you've seen, Mike Zenker, and there's a couple of great points there, and Bruce did this brilliant job. And again, this will be fresh for most people because he's, and this is tying into your light motif, Mike, and how helpful that was. You know, the life lived in love is light, and brings light, and reveals more. Life lived without love is darkness, and how great that darkness can be. And what we do in those two, you know, ways and states of being, it's not that Christ is absent, but we can take the life of the Zoe of God, and we cannot even know this God, as name it as its true wellspring, but we could actually, if we're flowing in love, bring life to so many others. And that's why presence and all that, right? So anyway, Bruce, if you just want to riff on that, because I think it's quite a
you've done it,
and a helpful frame for folks to just get, and maybe a bit of an incentive to dig into some of the new series as well as the
well, your lens up here matters. Like what you believe, you will live out everything you say you believe. So if you don't believe this message, you're not going to live it out. Like when I'm doing a funeral, because I do a lot of funerals every year, and even in the long-term care home, I try to speak to the light already in those folks. I don't have to create something new. It's there. Light will remember light, or it'll recognize light. So there isn't convincing involved here. So, but if I don't believe,
correct. It's a proclaiming of what is.
Yes, whole lot easier instead of manipulating. Anyway, I'm still unlearning.
Anyway, Zoe, Bruce's thing on Zoe,
okay,
and on life, and on, you know, and that life was the light. Like that's really, really worth folks digging into. And Bruce, you do a beautiful job in the first 6-8 talks. I think you get to some of those key points if folks don't want to go into the full series, but it's worth the price of admission alone, in my opinion. I don't know, Stuart, what do you think? But you've been working through them as you posted them and stuff. But I think there's some particularly very accessible but very revelatory things in that part of what you've offered us.
And thank you for making a playlist, an actual titled playlist, because now it's easier to share.
That was a good idea.
It was a really good idea. I don't know where that came from, but brilliant idea.
It was intergenerational. You know? I didn't know you could do that. I get your point, Michael. What I like about it is often now when you read the letters, it's people forget that those letters were read out to the laity, to the general people that were not necessarily been to Bible school or Bible studies or anything like that. They were immersed in their own culture. These letters were read into that culture and people got it. Right? Whereas today, you get the impression that you have to have some sort of education, you have to have some sort of mindset, but these videos are impacting the laity. That's what I love about them.
I can't believe they're free and available. This is amazing.
Yeah, they can digest it.
Yeah.
Whatever way they can and go out into the community, which is what we want.
I am so thrilled to see something new and fresh. I have not watched them all yet because there's 59. So I'm going to still be watching them. But I have pushed anybody that seems to have a hunger for light and a deeper understanding of the Trinity. I've put them onto What is the Gospel series. So now I have a new updated one, because I have a hunch you're covering all the same stuff, just times 10.
Well, what this series does is it was put out to provide a foundation for psychiatrists, psychologists.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Really?
It's a foundational series. So when you're dealing on the inside of a person, you come across parts of their being, parts of their soul. You might come across beings who are not from them. You might come across all things. You've got the structures of their mind and how they work and how they think. And so what I've done, and then the moment a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of people working with counselors, working with people work, they throw away their theology to work with the reality of what they've got on the inside, because their theology doesn't fit.
Doesn't.
And they almost run two worlds, right? Or some of them stick with their theology and try and impose that in a person, which causes damage.
Yes.
Right? So what I was trying to do and have done, I've wanted for years to lay down the foundation of how we believe, in a way that psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors can have a thorough, early church, solid theological structure on how to approach this area. So there's non-negotiables laid back, which is the backdrop to how we believe.
So is this the same as that the gospel and mental health you did? You did a 10-part series, but 15
well, it's that and way deeper.
Okay.
It gives the frame for it.
Yeah.
So it's got a theological frame, and it gives things that you hold as non-negotiable, and it works those through. Then it lays out the problem, which is human flesh. And flesh is where we don't know we're loved. Flesh is where the human doesn't know it's loved. And then I hold together, you don't know you're loved. And then John 17:26, where Jesus says, and the love with which you love me, Dad, will be in them. And that's Jesus, just before he goes to the cross, he says that the love with which you love me. And inner healing is ultimately that we know we're loved.
Yeah.
Right? And then we take that forward. So we develop the flesh, and we document that with diagrams, and it's flawed and it will be failed, but it's the beginning of documenting the flesh. And then we look at the person of Jesus Christ and how he comes in and what he has done. And you'd say it's an incarnational atonement, but it's just a true atonement of what Jesus did in his life and how he's overcome our flesh. And then we go through the implications of that and how that works forward legally for the heavens and the human spiritually, and lays it out. So, and then we kick into then those models of the human and then how healing occurs on the inside and the deconstruction of those models. Now, undergirding this thing is the frame of Zoe, that the universe is held together in and by the life of and being and person of Christ. Zoe, and Zoe is given to all. And John 1:3b, in that which was made was life, which is not in our translations, but I lay that out, and I've got that fairly well laid out both in the Greek and going back into Cyril of Alexandria. In that which was made was life. Life holds the life, being life and being of Christ holds all together scripturally.
Okay, so what does our translation say?
Right.
And
okay.
What you're
Stuart's saying, unpack that now. So, John, it says, all things were made through him, and we say, and without him nothing was made that was made. We've got a tautomer there, right? And a repetition. And then we say, and the life was the light of men. If you go to Cyril of Alexandria, just go and grab that blue book there. Yeah, that one. If you go to Cyril of Alexandria and you just go to that ancient Christian text, Cyril of Alexandria, he's got a commentary on John. And this man here showed me this. And when you open up John chapter 1, your head falls off. Can you see that?
That which came into being, in it was life. As far as I can see.
What? That's not in your John 1. That's not in my John 1. The tautomer, all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made. Stop. That was made then becomes the start of the next sentence. In him was life.
That's how it was read from Irenaeus all the way through to the late 3rd, early 4th century. And then, because they had such a battle with the Arians, the translation as we understand today was added, right? But then they used both. So when it came to the Arians, they used what we understand today to reinforce what was originally written. Wow. Now that one that's dropped out, the one that Bruce is talking in, that which was made was life, has dropped out.
And it was the original. It was the original reading.
Yeah.
So therefore, what we've lost is the flow of Christ in all things.
Yeah.
We've lost Zoe. So what I've done is I've gone back and looked at the gospel, looked at the soul, looked at the occult. Look at the occult at the end and frame it all in terms of Zoe.
Okay.
And then you start there, and then you can make headway.
Your foundation actually matters?
Well, totally. You're not in dualism. But you say to people, you can say, you say to people, do you realize the occult is merely playing with Zoe?
Okay.
If you watch the rest of the videos, you'll see that. Mike.
I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah, Mike, he's gonna want to have another call once he starts to chew on them, more further into the series.
If you're willing, absolutely.
Yeah, we're willing.
Yep.
So that's the frame of it. It's the purpose is that people will discover Christ in them.
Yep.
Yes.
Already in them.
Discover Christ in them, not place him in them. Discover Christ in them and begin to walk with him and receive him. Because it's very simple. We just have to receive love and give love. So that series covers universalism and debunks it. It covers the blood of Christ and debunks the Western view of the blood of Christ, but takes it deeper. We have it deals with propitiation and debunks the Western propitiation. It deals with Western heaven and hell and debunks that. So it goes for the thorny topics. It doesn't avoid anything. It goes for the thorny topics, because when you're dealing on the inside of a person as a psychiatrist, psychologist, and counselor, you can't play soft shoe shuffles the guys in the pulpit play.
So, Jim, when you got to that Christ holds all things together part, that clicked the hell doctrine for me and just blew it completely. I knew it was finishing and being debunked in my head, but if Christ holds all things together and created all things, there's nothing that Christ has created that he is absent from. If then hell, this weird hell thing, is created, Christ is not absent from that either. And yet the definition of hell is the absence of God, which is an impossibility.
No. The definition of hell you've raised, I cover in that talk.
Good.
That comes from Greek philosophy.
Yes. But what I'm saying is when I saw that, I went, wait, that's impossible. There's no such thing as absence. And so the love of God's even there, whatever that is. So it's just the illusions and games we play.
Not even there, more strongly there. The lake of fire is the lake of the love of God.
Yes.
Revelation 14, you're being confronted by Father, Son, and Spirit. You're getting a special dose because you especially need it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just can't thank you enough for being so free and willing to do those teachings, because I'm personally, I benefit so much, and I still have gone back and listened again. So when this series came out, I'm really excited. I see it's in 3 parts. You've got volume 1, the Gospel of Union, Christian Fish and Greek Soup, which I think that's the one that got me most excited. And then the last one, Soul Health. Can you summarize those up for me? Do you have time to do that? We're not going to split this talk up. We're going to just do one talk.
No. Volume 1 is dealing with, it's based around John 14:20. John 14:20, which is what one of Dr Kruger's great gifts to us all, is in the day of the Spirit, you'll know that I'm in my Father, you're in me, and then I'm in you. So there's 4 sections. So I then put in that day at the end, because that's when you know what's happened. So in that day is how we walk as believers. So that goes last. I'm in my Father goes first. And in that, we lay out the non-negotiables. And the non-negotiables are quite simple, which is things like, starts off with the indivisible union and love. The love and indivisible union of Father, Son, and Spirit. Unpack that. Second one, the pre-creation purpose, that before creation, all of us were wanted to be included in their relationship. Right? So they kick into and they become the pre-creation understanding by which we go back and look at everything. And then we kick into creation, and that's in the Word. And then we have the inexplicable blindness of Adam, and then the Word fixes that up, and we go through and lay that out. So we've got different non-negotiables, and we're finishing up with the new covenant at the bottom of that. And the new covenant is the agreement you have with Dad, Jesus, and Spirit, which is done in Jesus Christ. And it needs to be stuck on your fridge, and it's what you drink to in communion. It's the blood of the new covenant, and it does everything opposite of how the institution that calls itself the church conducts itself during communion.
Wow.
Because
I can hardly wait.
the institution that calls itself the church makes you grovel and shovel and
yes.
And so Stuart just got them up here. So number 3 was this love story is to be completed in the Word, because he's the only part of Father, Son, and Spirit that's become human, right?
Yep.
And then we are made in and held together by, and this Zoe we're talking is given to us by the Word. It's point 4. And then point 5, in his incarnation becoming one of us, Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, he's the only part of any humanity that knows anything about God. Therefore, all of our referencing is Christological. We have to adopt and come in. Who is this Jesus Christ? What has he done? What's happened to us? But from within him, that's the only way we can think and reference.
Yeah, because he's the one who said nobody's seen the Father. Nobody knows the Father.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And that's part of our darkness, right?
Yes.
And then the core of the gospel, then comes in. Whatever happens to him, because he's holding all things together, and because he's now become fully human, whatever happens to him happens to you, to me, to all of us. So when we kill Jesus, our deicide is our suicide.
Yeah.
Our deicide, our killing of God, is our suicide.
Wow.
And then when he rises, and when the Spirit shows him Dad's face and he comes alive again, his raising is our raising, right? And then the next point 7, is they will do what is required to make their love story come about. Effectively, they'll pick up the tab. They will alter everything. And then point 8, we summarize this in the new covenant. Now that's the first section, which is I'm in my Father.
Wow.
And can you just answer that? I'm in my Father. Now, then you are in me. That's creation. So the love story had to become true. The love story had to become true to have creation. And then we have creation, and then we have the fall. Yeah.
You're listening. You're allowed to. It's totally fine.
Yeah, okay. So then there's the creation. You are in me. We're made. But then we have the development of the flesh. So what we do is people look at the Christian world looks at sins because they believe that sin separates you from God, which is a misquote of Isaiah 59.
Yes.
And they have a misquote of Habakkuk 1, where you're too highly than to look upon sin. And they've got dualism running.
Then why do you?
Yeah. And in other words, why don't you do something? And he has his incarnation. So what we do is we then look at the flesh, because Galatians 5 says, from the flesh comes, and it lists the sins.
Yeah.
Everything you call sin comes from the flesh. Flesh is the problem. You want to run about your sins. You want to go about the cherry picking. You're going to pick fruit off the tree. The problem is the tree.
It's the wrong tree.
Wrong tree. And so we go through that. We build out from the 2 trees in the Garden of Eden. We build out the fall of Adam, and we show the fall of Adam is before eating the fruit. And that ties in with Timothy. And we tie that through, and we build the models of the flesh, the darkness that we've got, from which is coming all manner of mess. Then we have the incarnation of Christ into flesh. Now, what we talk about then is, were the human race held together by Father, Son, and Spirit? Yes, it was already in them.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus comes and says, I'm the only one who knows the Father. So that tells you about the level of darkness in humanity. That Father, Son, and Spirit are in them. They can't see.
Mm.
Jesus comes into our flesh fully. He becomes sarx. He becomes flesh. He takes on what we've got. So Romans 8, what the law could not do, and it was weak through the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sin flesh. In other words, the law couldn't work because we were screwed by the flesh. Jesus came to fix up the flesh. Now, if you miss that, you're into morality.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the institutions into morality, and they'll stick that into every orifice of your body till it's coming out sideways, right? Now,
I can see it.
No, we don't want to see it. No.
A little footnote, just for
We
all
always
the
talk about
folks
his
who
black
might watch
holes.
the series. Who might watch the series? There is such brilliant and delightful Aussie humor sprinkled throughout. You will bring a smile to your face. Yours truly became the one.
Hang on. You're Canadian. You're Canadian, so you don't mind the Aussie humor. But
Correct.
some of the emails we've been getting from the Americans is they can't get the sarcasm. They can't get the irony.
No.
You know, Americans can lack an irony gland sometimes.
They didn't get enough Monty Python, enough sarcasm.
Yeah. They haven't had British humor. Anyway, so
always look on the bright side of life.
That's right.
So what you've got is Jesus came into our flesh. Now, that means that when Jesus came into himself as a being, he had to work through his darkness. He had to heal the schism in himself. Procopto, Luke 2. He fought forward as a man fighting through brushwood. He chopped through himself. He fought forward till he met himself, Dad, and the Spirit on the inside of him. He healed the split, the schism, the blindness in humanity in his being.
Tom Torrance is doing cartwheels in the cloud right now. Tom Torrance is doing cartwheels in the cloud.
He beat forward. He beat forward and he found himself, and he made out one inside of himself. So when he goes before he goes to the cross, he says, the evil one is coming, but he has nothing in me. He's got no handle left. Right? And so the incarnational atonement, our flesh isn't dealt with on the cross. That's still significant, right? You know, we killed him. And I nail again and again, Dad is good and Dad is not Molech. The Western doctrine of propitiation is a Molech substitution.
Yep.
You got to call it. It's disgusting.
Yep.
Dad did not kill his son. Dad does not need blood to forgive.
Yep.
Dad is not a blood hungry monster. Dad is good. We killed Jesus and we're blame shifting. We're saying, oh, we don't have a problem. We don't have flesh. We don't have any need for fixing, but Dad's got a problem with us somehow, so he needs blood to pay off. No, we are the sickos. We are the sick ones. We killed Jesus and we blame shift it to the Father.
So this brings you back.
Unbelievable.
But this goes right back to what we believe. So if we have our false concept of who God is, who Trinity is, it's going to screw up everything in our thinking.
Which is why those non-negotiables are laid down.
Yeah.
And I say to people, I've laid this down, I've argued them, and if you don't agree with them, I don't even have a place to begin argue. Unless you can argue against them, I can't agree with the things that Dad turned his face away. I can't agree. Just keep going. People introduce ideas and concepts which are against the foundations of the early church. Those non-negotiables that I've laid down are not mine. They are not original. They are early church.
So
what people don't realize, and Michael understands this, and Stuart understands this, the boys and girls working with perichoresis and with relationally linked with Dr Kruger have an agreement not to be original. We're going to be faithful to the early church fathers.
Yeah.
Tom Torrance would absolutely take your legs out from you if you tried to create your own theology. His book, The Trinitarian Faith, is him playing like a conductor, the early church. And Stuart will rabbit on about that. But none of us are going to be original.
Yeah.
There's nothing original in this series.
No.
So this series, there's nothing original of Bruce. What you've got is Bruce's flavor on how he sees it. But the core is non-original. It's early church. And Stuart can rabbit on about Tom playing the early church in the Trinitarian faith. If you want to be original, we don't want anything to do with you.
That's right.
If you want to be faithful to Jesus Christ, and if you want to delve into his riches and bring them out, we're all there. But don't impose different alien thoughts, Greek thought, other thought, non-Jewish thought upon Jesus Christ.
So there are folks.
Can I just accentuate what you've said there for Mike's benefit, and again, those who were perhaps just going to dip into the series. What Torrance does with to unpack Athanasius, and what you have done to continue to reiterate it and just in your own beautiful way distill Torrance and Athanasius and other early fathers, is that this notion of Jesus actually fighting by blow on the hammer, hammering out a new humanity inside his own humanity for all of us, right? That experience of overcoming by his life. It's a seamless redemptive symphony. It's not about a moment on the cross. It's not about some blood sacrifice. It's the whole of Jesus' life that transforms. And I'm going to say that that's something that came out fresher and deeper for me in the room as I was recording it. There are numerous moments. Oh my God, this changes everything. I mean, and it's something that actually has hope for our healing, for us to be able to drop down and to find, to integrate those broken fragments and those deep wounds and to dare to look in the black hole, because that's what Jesus did. He actually really goes before us and finds, as you say, this is a blow your way, Mike, Jesus finds himself, and the Spirit shows him Dad's face as he's dropping down, as he's experiencing this profound sense of our deepest, darkest darkness. And Bruce, it's just, again, that may be common for you guys. Stewie, you may have had this spoken a lot, but that came through in a way that I don't think I've ever heard anyone quite express it that way. So look,
there's nothing new here. If you speak with Baxter, right, the difference is most people can't hear Baxter.
Yeah.
Most people can't hear Torrance.
Can't even read him.
Most people can't hear Athanasius. The Americans go and take their American worldview and stick it across Athanasius and miss what he's on about.
Yep.
So, if you can hear any of this series, it's totally congruent with the fathers. It's congruent with Torrance. It's congruent with Kruger. It's not original, but as a doctor and as a person working on the inside of the soul, what I bring is my prism. I bring my prism on and my faulty, flawed models on flesh and the broken human. And we start by saying they're going to be incomplete and broken, but they're a beginning, right? And showing how Jesus heals. So my opening up of this area is only because of my expertise in a discipline of inside humans. But what we're talking about theologically, there is nothing new here.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people,
it's new to them.
It'll be mind-blowingly new because they can't see yet the gospel. And when they start seeing it, they'll go back and read Kruger again, and they'll read Torrance again, and they'll read Athanasius again, and they'll say, "Oh, Walker, you're not saying anything new." I go, exactly right.
That's funny.
Nothing new.
So when you started off
and we choose not to be original.
I love how you started the very first session I heard. First, you warn people that you might not like what you're going to hear. And then you say, does this make God bigger and better or smaller and less? And that stuck. So if it's not good news for all, it's not good news for anybody. And so that really pushed me to as a frame or a filter for a whole bunch of things I was having to relearn and restart to learn because of that. And then I loved your perichoresis image of the Trinity. Your Father loves the Son, Son loves the Spirit, and then you put the person in the middle, like where's that person? They're in the Trinity. I use that illustration all the time in 3D because it's the best illustration. I was down on a missions trip in Mexico. Every place I stopped at, I did the Gospel in Chairs, and I did that one. It was just phenomenal because people got it. Like, we're in the Trinity. There's anyway.
And the Trinity is in people.
Yes.
The Trinity is already speaking to people. And so when we are congruent with the church fathers, we're saying something that rings true because the Spirit is already in people. And
it's not true because you're saying it. It's true. And when you hear it and it resonates, right?
Yeah. We don't create anything. Yeah. The human race, the flesh is actually a reductionism. So our creation in the flesh is a diminution, not a positive creation. The creation of the human flesh is a blindness. It's an inability to work with love. And the work of Jesus is to change the human race so we can work with love. That's in 2 sentences, this whole talking.
Wow. I don't know how to say this. I'm assuming you know this, but it feels like in my country, in the West, and even in the States, which is connected, there's so much blindness to this. They don't get it. They've not heard it. They've never seen it before. But when it's shared, I think the Holy Spirit started the work in people already. It's almost like
what we've learned in perichoresis, on this journey, we've been thrown under the bus for 25 years, 20 years, a lot of trauma, right? But what we've learned, if we've learned anything, is that Jesus is inside everybody, and the Spirit is poured on all flesh, already working on everybody, but they have to be brought to a point where they've got ears. Now, the Western world is so flippin' arrogant and so flippin' blind and believes it's Christian.
Yeah.
So it has to be brought to a point where it's got ears.
My wife and I have had walks and talks a lot, and we're getting into deeper theological questions, and we're saying we're almost embarrassed that we're part of this Christian church, and yet, as Paul Young says, they're my family. They are right. Yeah. So you can't. Go ahead.
I separate very strongly in this series, and it will probably piss some people off.
Okay.
But I separate the ecclesia.
Yep. From
the institution that calls itself church.
I agree with you.
Now, the ecclesia are brothers and sisters, and they're flawed as much as I am.
Yeah.
The institution that calls itself the church is not the church.
It's a system.
It's a system. And it's mostly Babylonian, mostly dark, and will fall. So that's got to annoy a number of people. And it's already some of the pastors in Australia have come on, and they're not happy that I've poked at the institution. I said, well, it's not the church.
Correct.
The church is living stones.
Yeah.
And the institution that calls itself the church breaks the new covenant again and again and again. And that's your metric. If the
explain that to Mike, because that's a great point. Make that point, Bruce.
The new covenant, which is brought in by Jesus' blood, the blood of the new covenant. You've got the old covenant, you've got the new covenant. It's got 3 clauses. It's 3 times in the Bible: Jeremiah 31:31, Hebrews 8, Hebrews 10. By 2 or 3 witnesses, every word is established. Bang, there you got your foundation. Okay. First clause, Jeremiah 31:31, I'll put my laws in your hearts and your minds. I'll be my God, you're my kids, right? Christ in you. Step 1. Clause 2, no one shall teach his neighbor or his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. In other words, there is no vertical authority. And I cannot come to you, Mike, and say, I have the word of God, and God says this to you. I have no authority over you spiritually. You are self-responsible. And that kicks both ways. That means people have to grow up into Christ. Ephesians 4 becomes necessary. You grow up into Christ and you're self-responsible, right? And point 3, everything is forgiven and forgotten.
I'll remember your sins no
more. I'll remember your sins no more.
Yeah.
Because they're interested in my being, not my actions.
Yeah.
Out of my flesh has come all manner of mess. They're interested in my being, becoming united with them and me growing with them. As I grow with them, the past actions are irrelevant. It's who I'm becoming.
So identity in Christ is a thing here, from what I'm hearing.
No, it's not. You're a child of God. It's not a thing. It's the fundamental.
I was being facetious here.
I know.
I'm trying to be like Stuart. He rubs off, Oh, man. Well, we're already done. Like, it's an hour already. Oh, man. I don't know how to wrap this. So, sorry? Let's close in prayer. Okay, we got to wrap this up because it's already an hour. I'd love to do this again sometime.
Okay, but can you see the symmetry?
Yes.
Captain Lafleur invites us to Canada, and we run the first one, which you've been running. Now you come across, Captain Lafleur comes to Australia, and films the next bookend.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm a witness, just watching it all.
And in the interim, Trinity has been doing all kinds of extraordinary things, often unseen, unrecognized by us, but powerfully, doing all. Just to me, it blew away. Bruce, I got a fourth thing that is monumental that happened in January of '94. That's when you had your vision of the Trinity, as I recall, when we talked about. That's when Paul Young had his confrontation with dear Kim, and he started. That was his watershed moment. That's when Baxter launched and inaugurated Perichoresis Ministries, and that's when the unveiling of the Spirit here in Mississauga, the so-called Toronto Blessing. Just
number 5. I think David Qualick had his revelation '94 too.
Tell me that's not the most extraordinary picture of the passion of the Father, Son, and Spirit, the Spirit's passion, that the face of the Father would be known, and they will just go across all worlds, to use Baxter's wonderful phrase, in order they have done it, they have made it known, they will continue to make it known, and we get to be caught up in this, we get to participate in it.
But come back, Michael. What you've spoken about is a time event. There's a Kairos, and there's also a Chronos in there. There's a time which speaks of planning, which speaks of intent.
That's good.
Speaks of planning and intent, and there's a lot of planning and intent that the world may be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters covers the sea.
And yet, as you would so beautifully agree, Bruce, but always looking for willing resonance, never coercing, never forcing, never, right?
Just total freedom.
Eyes of the Lord ranging throughout the whole earth, not to force anything on anyone, but to look, as a friend of mine says, how many young virgins in Israel did the Spirit go to before Mary said yes?
Not with the
but all to say that our participation is real. That's where I was going, and that they are so thrilled when we willingly and freely, participate with them in all that they long and plan to do. So
let me go back. Let me go back to the very beginning when you talked.
We'll give you some edit points there, Mike. We'll give you some edit.
No, I'm not going to edit this fun.
No, it's fun.
So this when you said that you were still when that noise of the rocks crushing rocks and that grumbling was going on, if you weren't still and ready and aware, listening, you wouldn't have heard it. Correct. I think that's a big lesson, and I think you said it in the first series too. Invite Jesus with you on to teach you along the way here as you hear. And I think in the series that you've just shared and made public, I would say the same thing. Invite the Holy Spirit. If I have a question with this, Holy Spirit, help me understand if you want me to understand now.
There's very detailed prayers which are up on. Michael's done a great job. What he's gone and taken diagrams and images and text and made it PDF and stuck it on part of the video.
Yep.
There's long prayers there which cover all of this, Michael. So as you go through, there's prayers you can pray with the group on the video that the Holy Spirit will unveil Christ in you, and also unveil your blindness so you can see what you're participating. So we want people, the goal is we want people to find Jesus in them.
Yeah.
You can't put him there. If they find Jesus in them and we give them a frame by which they can stay in union, they can begin walking.
Yeah.
Or
at least believe they're in union, not because otherwise you're thinking you are separate. You don't have union, but to believe there is union.
That's the lie of the flesh, which goes back to Genesis 2, which is Adam being alone.
Yeah.
So we can increasingly see what is and enjoy what Jesus enjoys with the Father and the fellowship of the Spirit as our own. It is, it's his love, his joy, his peace, right? And the joy, the beauty is that all of that is ours, but it will never be forced down our throat. It is real participation and a real enjoyment of that. As I said to Bruce, Mike, I had the third weekend. We did it over 3 weekends. It was a lot of material. Can't believe Bruce made it through. But there literally came a point on the last Saturday and the last weekend. The tears were streaming down my face because I felt like I had never had anybody put so many parts of the mystery and how did this Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And the first response, and I hadn't had this response in years, was the purest longing just to fall on my knees in wonder, in awe, and in thanks for the goodness of God, the patience of God, the love of God that was so overwhelmingly evident. And I could be so much more gracious and kind to myself. I could actually love all those wounded, shameful parts of myself and all the lies.
And let me tell you, for Lafleur, that's an ongoing big process that goes for years. I mean,
we just knew Bruce had to break it at the moment. But it was profound.
Michael was crying. Michael was crying, and I was just saying, when you lay it all out, what are you left with but worship?
Exactly. I'd never been
saying thank you. Worship isn't this bullshit of climbing to God and we say this about you and we say that about you and you are so great. Worship is when you see who they are and what they've done. As Michael was, you're reduced to tears and we say thank you.
Yeah.
That's worship.
No power. There's no pattern. There's no institutional power that forces you to do that. It's rivers of living water just coming out of you.
Well, it's interesting.
And that flow of Zoe was so overwhelming. Literally for at least a month I got back. It was like everything was alive and everything just like, because all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I am actually free. Francois' beautiful rendering of Galatians 2:20. For the first time in my life, I'm free to be me inside my own skin.
Wow.
And that's the gift that this journey will.
We wouldn't want to be there with you, Michael.
Stop it.
I'm not asking you to look, but in my mind's eye, I have been free of myself. See Michael, that now that you're getting a perfect. And by the way, you'll hear all this.
We were having this stuff the whole time with when Lafleur was here. We're basically giving each other shit the whole time, which is Australian affection.
It is. It
wow.
is. I was loved on. I was loved on big time, Mike. Just put it that way.
I'm so spiritually jealous, if I can use that word.
because if we don't like somebody, we're polite and distant.
Yep.
And then if we like them, we just hoe into them, give them shit and love them. And we're giving Lafleur curry, It's
well, if we can do a follow-up sometime, I want to go through and catch the fresh wind of what is being shared here, personally. And I'm sharing this a whole ton of people right now. So this conversation is going to air probably next week or the week after.
Okay, you're going to tell them they can find these videos on trinityinu.com.
Maybe I will.
Yeah. And you can tell them also, you can go to YouTube and there's a channel with just these videos called Astonished Hearts with Dr. Bruch Wauchope. There's two ways. Don't care.
All the links will be available. I promise, because I have a big mouth and I'm excited about this and I can't shut up about good stuff. So, my goodness.
And so there's if you've got counselors.
Yes.
Psychologists, psychiatrists, people, seekers.
Yeah.
Seekers, counselors, psychologists. It's too granular and in depth and driving and building for your average Joe Friday.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
I'm taking my house church through it, and those are some average folk, and they are getting a ton out of it, Mike. Wow. So just so you know, Bruce is quite accessible, even though there may be more detail at times. But literally, it's been fantastic. So our people, and I've got people from the whole swath of not quite as familiar with scripture and sophisticated and no theological background to some fairly seriously biblical kind of people, and all of them are just like, this is great. So it's just like our friends Baxter and Bruce and Brad and so many others, Cherith, and there's so many that are gifts to us in this. Bruce's series, I think, will land for people, and it's not going to be over their head, even though it may need to be ingested in sort of smaller bites.
Could I show that video clip that you prepared at the end of this conversation when I air live, and just share that with them in my program?
Yeah, you should. Okay, that's the teaser trailer. That's what it's for.
Send me the link, because I don't know where it is.
So Lafleur's work. I mean, Michael does beautiful work in taking concepts and visually representing them.
Yeah, I've noticed.
It's a pity about the rest of his face, but
my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right.
The love. I haven't been loved on this much in a long time. Oh man.
So the fun of having all three of you with me like this is a joy. I can't believe it. I've told a whole bunch of folks, I get to meet Bruce, and then Stuart shows up, and I called Michael ahead of time or texted, hey, do you want to join us? Sneak in surprise. It was just fun. So this is how I like to roll, and it's an honor. So I'm going to hit the stop and record, and but I look forward to the next conversation sometime. I'll see you all later, folks.
Oh my goodness. That was one of the most fun conversations that I've had in a long time, and the Aussie heckling and fun they were having. Oh boy. But more importantly, the content. I really hope, in fact, I have to re-listen to some of this, and I'm going to be going through the whole series. I'm going to be listening to it, because to me, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the fine cuisine of spiritual food that I think many have been hungering for a long time. The links are all below in the description. I was going to just leave the link for the promo video, but I'm going to show it right now, because not everybody knows how to go find links in the description. So even though it's going to make today's live thing really long, it's already long, but so what? The good stuff is usually longer. So I'm going to just share the promo video with you. The links to the 59 video series is below, and a description from the YouTube channel. So if you've enjoyed this, please let me know. Please comment, share this interview with whomever. I think this is going to be big. And I spoke to Bruce last night, and we're going to do a follow-up on this. So probably when I finish the first session of, I think, 20 videos, we're going to probably have a chat about each one as we go. And as I finish them, I want to talk through and maybe bounce questions. So even if you have some questions, fire them back to me, and then we can talk about them in the next interview. And hopefully we'll invite Michael Lafleur back in there. That was so good to have him there. Unfortunately, they beat him up with humor. Oh my goodness, poor guy. I guess you have to have a really good relationship to take that kind of a beating. Oh man, it was awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go share this illustration summary of the new series that Bruce is teaching. Michael Lafleur put together a 7-minute clip. So I'm going to share this with you, and then we'll come back and close up. But I think you're going to love this this clip. Here we go.
You're telling me that God, whatever God is made up of persons who are in relationships. Yeah? Are these three one? And are they in each other? Yes. Oh my goodness. And are we and creation inside them? Yes. And there's no outside. Well, we're starting from a position where there can be no outside to God, and we are in God. Oh my goodness, this is too much. But it's the truth. This is the truth. Yeah, and he's just woken up and he said, nice to meet you. That's the call of Dad. That's the long of Dad. Where Dad's saying, you are mine, to us. And Dad's wanting us to say, yes, I am. It's a call of relationship with the whole creation. Life is given to everything. We can, as an individual, we can take the life of Christ flowing through us, and we can live that life in love, or I can live that life without love. And if I live that life without love, I'm in darkness. So if I take the life of Christ flowing through me and I live that without love, welcome to Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, and yourself. We're not only dark in the head, we're trapped in fear often, and our conscience will lock our guilt, lock the fear through guilt, which means then I can't think and process. Religion wants to dismiss life and have no life, but just have morality. Back in the Garden of Eden, Dad said, the day you eat that tree, you will die. It's the tree of death. But there's another tree in the middle of the garden called the tree of life, and that's a being called Jesus. But Bruce, I don't want to actually embrace this tree of life because that means I've got to relate to this being. I don't like relationships. Just give me a series of things to do. Give me laws. Give me the 10 steps to ABCD, please. I've got some sense of control. I don't want a relationship. I don't want to relate to this being. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You've got a relationship with Jesus, and it gets worse, guys. He's in you, and you never put him there. The universe is open and free. They've created the universe, and the universe is on the inside of Jesus Christ. Held together like a womb, it's inside him. And he gives life to it. He gives Zoe to it. He's giving life into that universe. But there is the life of Christ, the Zoe. In that which was made is life, and that's flowing through all of you. So if they are who they are, which is love, Father, Word and Spirit are love, that's the fundamental thing about God. And it's not love over here and justice over there. That's Greek philosophy, that's thoroughly pagan. The Zoe of the universe, the being that holds the universe together and gives life to it, came as a bloke. He coughed and he burped and he farted like everybody in history. The life became human, and we have seen and declare to you that eternal life, that life which was with the Father has come. So guys, this is saying, whatever you need to know about Dad, Father, whatever you need to know has become human. It's crossed the event horizon. It's crossed the edge of creation into the uncreated. It's come this way down because you can't go that way up. It's come to us. So when you meet Jesus, you can know all you need to know about Dad. They've come into me and they've set up a tabernacle, a dwelling, a party in the middle of Bruce's flesh, his sarx. Jesus took on skin for skin from Job. He took on death. He went down. Dad's holding him, Spirit's holding him. He couldn't see. He dies. The Spirit unveils and shows him Dad's face, who's with him. Cool. And the love that made the universe brings him back to life. And therefore he can share what he knows with us. And therefore we can say, Jesus, I'm in deep grief, and he can hold you and go, yeah, you are. And the deep tenderness of Father, Son and Spirit can hold you in your grief, because Jesus is a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief and knows how to handle it. And Jesus, I don't know how to handle my grief. Holy Spirit, can you take what Jesus got and share it with me? Sure. That which we have seen and heard we declare to you, that you also may have camaraderie, fellowship, love with us. And because we have this camaraderie, fellowship, love with Dad and Jesus. Are you talking about familial, family? You're talking about friendship. You're talking about intimacy. You're talking about fun. Underneath that, for that to happen, is obviously trust and acceptance. Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go trust and acceptance, because while I've got my accuser running, I can't trust God. Dad is not good.
No, he's not.
Dad is not good, because he's going to get me one day. Because if he really knows what's behind my defences, he's going to get me and he's going to throw me into hell. Right? But if I can manage to maintain my defences and I can keep everything under cover, he will never see it. See, I'm like a little kid doing this. You can't see me, you can't see me, you can't see me. That's what we do as adults on the inside of ourselves with our stuff, and they're already at the bottom having a party waiting for us to wake up. Dad is good. Dad is not like my view of God. Dad is not like my conscience. Dad is not like Satan.
Cheers. Marathon finished.
We did it.
Did it.
We did
Won
it.
it. Cheers.
Pray for everybody watching this video. We pray for all those in the room. Holy Spirit, please help us participate in. Please share with us, beyond our capacities, the love that Jesus and Dad have, that we can.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that short promo video. Love that clinking of the wine glasses at the end there. That's beautiful. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today. This is the longest live stream I've ever done. Hour and 25 minutes. But the interview with Michael Lafleur, Bruch Wauchope, Stuart Johnson was so overdue. And you couldn't know how excited I was to be able to have this conversation and the joy I have of continuing these conversations moving forward. It's an absolute delight. Please watch the series, the link's below, and I look forward to hearing your response to all this at another time. If you enjoyed this, support this, share the links like crazy, and we will see you next time.
Join me next time on Still Growing in Grace for more good news. Enjoy previous episodes by downloading our podcast at growingingrace.ca. You can also visit hopefellowshipycc.com to find our service times and location. If this show has been an encouragement to you, please consider making a donation today at growingingrace.ca and help us keep spreading this good news. Thank you again for tuning in to Still Growing in Grace.